Literature as art. Simon Schama's Power of Art, Picasso documents the development of Picasso from an artist oriented toward self-expression to an artist interested in expanding artistic conventions and speaking to a global audience about important issues such as the devastations of war. These three aspects of artistic experience, self-expression, art history, and politics, also resonate with the production and reception of literature. Writers may travel a similar road from self-oriented forms into interaction with writers and texts throughout literary history, where they assume, adapt, and discard techniques used in the past in order to fashion a new tradition. Writers may also find themselves speaking beyond their own experience with the voice of a group or culture, to a group or culture. This orientation toward the world is what Robert Scholes calls textual power. Readers' aesthetic experience may operate similarly, beginning close to home in the pleasures texts provide to themselves as individuals, then achieving a greater understanding of the position of text within a network of techniques and intertexts, and finally assuming a broader expressive position where their unique response to literature is grounded in and speaks to responses belonging to groups and cultures. Like writing, reading is thus, to use Louise Rosenblatt's term, transactional. For a pastime that seems to be physically passive, reading operates in surprisingly active ways. Readers bring their own experiences and beliefs with them into the reading encounter, changing the meaning of the text as they read. Simultaneously, the reading experience changes the reader. These moments of connection to the self, to artistic or literary history, and to the world and action in the world represent powerful reasons for the practice and appreciation of art. Because writing and reading, art-making, and art appreciating represent moments of communication involving texts, they are rhetorical activities. Reading involves a text or message written by an author or communicator and read by a reader or audience. This interaction occurs in a reading context that may have only the text in common with the writer's context. But literature might be considered more of an artistic form than other genres such as maps, reports, newspapers, or manuals. Other genres can be read as if they were works of art, but literary texts are designed for aesthetic attention. They are intended to be read both literally, with attention to facts, and figuratively, with attention to meanings that can be implied by or inferred in patterns of detail, patterns the author does not fully control. Rosenblatt terms information text as efferent and artistic text as aesthetic. Literary texts employ the following features that resemble similar features in other art forms: intertextuality, or reference to prior texts, genre use and resistance, perspective, or seeing the action through fictional eyes, depiction of persona or character psychology, patterns, or repetition and alteration of details, symbols, juxtaposition of opposites, artistic selection of details, plot, or where conflict encourages attention, resolution encourages comfort, and lack of resolution encourages thought, tone, which conveys emotion and shapes meaning, precise language, particularly in poetry, and sound contributing to sense, particularly in poetry. Weaving together these elements plays on the reader's attention and emotions. The details presented are never complete, so the reader fills in the gaps, taking an active role in meaning-making. Because the reader's background is unique, the sense he or she makes from any given patterns will also be unique. Because of this unique participation, literary texts have the potential to be more powerful than information texts. They address readers emotionally and intellectually and include them in the meaning-making, so that readers leave the text as different people. Through literature, readers can expand and deepen their own thinking, preparing themselves to act with integrity in the world. This philosophical quality of literature makes it a life-changing and culturally significant art form. effective not only for the individual artist or within a single artistic tradition, but also prepared to address a global audience. This power is a product not so much of the author's intent, but of the complex nature of literature itself, and it is why great literature appeals to audiences for generations. Immanuel Kant differentiates beauty from the good and the pleasurable. The good has an obligation to morality. The pleasurable pleases individuals individually. The beautiful is not tied to morality or limited to particular individuals. It has the potential to delight more broadly, accessing our common humanity. That the benefits of literature are culturally shared is key to understanding the power of the art form. Through literature, in addition to pleasure, we gain communication. All reading is fundamentally about ideas shared intimately between writers and readers and among groups of readers. Understanding of others and ourselves. Through entering into the lives of characters, we learn to think outside the confines of our lived experience, which also aids in self-reflection. Creativity. Like other forms of artistic expression, reading is an imaginative experience involving the response to beauty. Intuitive thinking grounds major discoveries that extend understanding beyond the known and into the unknown. Intellectual skills. The meaning-making involved in interpretation demands critical thinking strategies that range from simple tasks, such as demonstrating knowledge of literary terms and comprehension of textual content, to more complex tasks, such as applying theory to literature and film, analyzing texts for patterns and meanings, synthesizing information from various sources to draw new conclusions, and evaluating texts, theories, and interpretations. As with other art forms, literature supports an industry of scholars who study texts. As Alexander Pope indicates in an essay on criticism, one job of literary scholars is to hold up a mirror to literature, by means of which authors can hone their craft. Literary scholarship responds to texts of all kinds, particularly literature, with aesthetic approaches that have been developed over hundreds of years. In its earliest form, literary scholarship grew among literate people with enough leisure time to read and discuss books. An understanding of books was necessary for demonstrating one belonged to the cultured class, and it became a commodity available to the middle classes through education. Literature did not become an area of study at the college level until the end of the 19th century, and even at that time it wasn't a real major. It was enhancement in trade schools, or an area of study women might pursue before degrees were available to them. As the 20th century progressed, literary scholars strove to demonstrate the rigors of their field, and the literature major was born. Today, literary scholars spend their lives reading, talking, listening, researching, and writing. As Bressler observes, literary scholars attempt to describe, study, analyze, justify, interpret, and evaluate literature as a work of art. Through presentation and publication, they contribute to a centuries-old reading community, building their new ideas on existing scholarship. They may focus on literary interpretation of a particular author or texts of particular time periods. They may engage in comparing texts across cultures and time periods. They may perform archival research, locating diaries and other historical documents to bring to bear on interpretation. They may analyze popular culture like films and video games as literary texts. Or they may grow our understanding of literary history and theory. Through this work, scholars not only continue the conversation, but also keep works they love alive. By asking students to approximate participation in this dialogue through classroom discussion, research, and writing, they pass this tradition down to students.